You never think it's going to be you. Not after you work yourself to the bone. Not after you spend your life trying to do the right thing. But there I was, sitting on the edge of the bed, phone slipping from my hand. My daughter's voice still echoing through the room like a siren. Dad, you have to come get me. I found something. It's bad. She was sobbing full on, shaking, broken sobs. The kind of sound that tears something straight out of your chest. I didn't ask questions. Didn't hesitate. Just grabbed the truck keys, left the house door swinging wide open behind me, and drove like hell to the other side of town. My daughter, my sweet, level-headed, never-make-a-scene girl, was standing outside my wife's boutique, clutching a laptop against her chest like it was a bomb about to go off. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with betrayal and horror. She didn't say a word, just shoved the laptop into my hands, pointed at the screen, and turned away like she couldn't even look. And there they were. Photos. Dozens of them. My wife, a hair curled, red lips smiling, wrapped around some guy I didn't even recognize. Hotel rooms, dark corners of bars, parking lots. Places we used to go. Places I thought were ours. And there she was, selling it all off cheap to a man who didn't even have the decency to stay out of the camera frame. I don't remember much after that. I remember the taste of blood in my mouth where I bit my tongue to stay silent. I remember my daughter collapsing into my arms, sobbing that she was sorry she found it, sorry she looked, sorry for everything even though none of this was her fault. We didn't go back inside. We didn't even lock the door. We went straight home, packed whatever we could throw into bags, my clothes, her clothes, the dog's leash, my old army duffel stuff to bursting, and we left a little something behind. A surprise. A note. Short, cruel, and final. You lied. We saw. We're done. We left it sitting right there on the kitchen table, next to the cup of coffee she hadn't even finished that morning before she skipped out to yoga class. We pulled out of the driveway just as the porch light flickered on, automatic timer, set long before. The house glowed warm and golden behind us, like it was mocking us, like it was still pretending to be a home. And you know the sickest part? She never even called. Not once. Not when she came home and found the house empty, the closets bare, the photos missing from the walls. Not when she saw the note. Not when she realized her family was gone. It was like we never existed. Like her real life, the one she kept hidden in hotel rooms and grainy cell phone pictures, was finally free to breathe. And for a month, it stayed that way. Silence. I moved us into a little rental by the lake. Nothing fancy, but it had strong locks and a wide-open view where nobody could sneak up behind us. I went back to work. My daughter started counseling. We built new routines out of the wreckage. And then, one night, just when the scab was starting to form over the wound, my phone buzzed. A text. From her. No words. Just a photo attachment. For a moment, I stared at it, thumb hovering over the screen, my whole body warning me not to open it, not to let her back in, not even for a second. But I had to know. I opened it. And the moment I saw what she sent, every hair on my body stood straight up. Because in that photo, sent from her number, sent to me, was something no sane woman would ever send to her husband. And in the background, there was something even worse. Something that told me this nightmare wasn't over. It was just getting started. The photo wasn't just some careless mistake. No, it was deliberate, calculated. An ice pick jab straight into the ribs. There she was, in bed, wearing nothing but a smirk. But it wasn't the fact that she was half naked that made my blood run cold. No, it was the man lying next to her, asleep, one arm draped over her like he owned her. And the worst part? Pinned to the headboard behind them, like some sick trophy, was the note I had left her. You lied. We saw. We're done. She'd saved it, displayed it, turned it into part of her twisted little love nest. I should have felt rage, or heartbreak. But what I felt was colder than either. I felt nothing. Pure, perfect nothing. It was over. It was so far beyond over that it had become something new. Something sharper. Something more dangerous. I stared at the picture until every detail was burned into my brain, the way her hair tangled across the pillow, the cheap motel lamp casting sickly yellow light across their skin, the faint blur of a tattoo I didn't recognize along the guy's shoulder blade. Then I deleted it. Gone. Like she was. My daughter found me in the living room a few minutes later, standing motionless by the window, staring out into the darkness. Dad, she asked, tentative, still bruised from everything we'd been through. I turned and managed a smile. Not a real one, not yet, but something close enough. I'm fine, kiddo, I said. And somehow, saying it made it true. I wasn't broken. I wasn't defeated. I was just awake. Finally awake. That night, after she went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with a pen and a yellow notepad, the cheap kind you get in bulk at hardware stores, and started making a list. A simple one. Nothing fancy. No wild revenge fantasies. Just cold, methodical facts. Mortgage in her name only. Credit cards she opened after we got married also in her name. Joint bank account? Already drained by me the day we left. Retirement accounts? Tied up tight. No access without my signature. Business lease? I co-signed. Big mistake for her. Big opportunity for me. She thought she had burned me to the ground. What she didn't realize was that she was the one standing in a house soaked in gasoline, and I was just now striking the match. In the morning, I called a lawyer. Not one of those polite, gentle types who understood how messy divorces could be. No, I found a real shark. The kind who smiled when you said words like adultery and asset forfeiture. We met at his office downtown. Leather chairs. Heavy oak desk. A room built for power. I handed him the burner phone I'd bought the night before, loaded with the photos from my wife's laptop, screenshots of her messages, the motel address geotagged in the picture she'd sent me. He flipped through them with a growing look of satisfaction. Open and shut, he said, finally. You want the house, the business, the car, her goldfish, her collection of designer handbags. It's all yours if we play this right. I nodded. I don't want her stuff, I said. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. Then what do you want? I leaned back in the chair. Smiled for the first time in weeks. I want her to know she lost everything, and that it was her own damn fault. The lawyer chuckled, low and approving. I can work with that. The machine was in motion now. The gears grinding forward. Slow, inevitable, unstoppable. I left the office lighter than I had in months. It wasn't about anger anymore. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about justice. Cold, clean, undeniable. And it was coming for her. She just didn't know it yet. I spent the next week moving like a ghost through the wreckage she left behind. Every morning, I got up before dawn, brewed the strongest coffee I could stomach, and made calls. Calls to banks. Calls to real estate agents. Calls to anyone who could help dismantle the life she thought was still standing. It turned out that when you spend a decade quietly making yourself the dependable one, the one who signs the papers, pays the bills, handles things, you end up holding the real power. Funny how she never noticed that. The house? She thought she was safe because the mortgage was in her name. What she forgot was that the property taxes were under mine. And when you don't pay those, and I hadn't paid them for a month before I left, the county starts licking its chops. A few strategic delays, a few well-placed calls to the tax office, and it wouldn't be long before a lien went up. Once that happens, she could either cough up the cash she didn't have or watch her precious suburban palace go up for auction. The business? Same deal. I had co-signed the lease when she begged me for help starting her dream boutique. And now that the business income was drying up, word spreads fast when someone's dirty laundry hits the streets. I had every right to call in the lease agreement. Default. Eviction. Public embarrassment. Check. 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 Every domino she'd stacked so carefully, thinking she was building a new kingdom with her sleazy hotel buddy, was already tilting, ready to fall. Meanwhile, she stayed silent. No calls. No desperate text messages begging for forgiveness. No crocodile tears about how complicated it all was. She thought she was free. She thought she'd finally cut loose the boring old husband and the boring old life. Good. Let her enjoy it. Let her think she was winning. It was always better when they didn't see the fall coming. One afternoon, after my daughter finished a counseling session, we stopped for ice cream. Just me and her, sitting on a splintered bench by the lake, watching the ducks swim lazy circles across the water. She seemed lighter already. Not healed, not yet, but lighter. I'm sorry, Dad, she said quietly, wiping chocolate from the corner of her mouth. I looked at her, confused. What in the world do you have to be sorry for? If I hadn't snooped, if I hadn't taken her laptop, maybe. No, I cut her off, firm. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. You saw the truth. You told me. You saved us. Tears welled in her eyes, but she smiled anyway. We sat there for a long time, just breathing. No need for words. No need for promises. We were what was left, and that was enough. Later that night, as she slept, I opened my laptop and logged into a new email account, one I'd set up with a fake name, a fake number, and a VPN that would make me invisible. Subject line, congratulations. Attached were 3 things. A photo of the house with a pending tax lien notice pinned to the front door. A scan of the default notice for her business lease. A screen capture of her new boyfriend's extensive criminal record, freshly dug up by a private investigator friend who owed me a favor. Simple, clean, cold. And at the bottom, just one line. You wanted freedom? Welcome to it. I clicked send. And I sat there in the glow of the laptop screen, waiting. Waiting for the fireworks. Waiting for the screaming, crying, panicked flood of text and calls. But again, nothing. Silence. And that was when I realized something that made my stomach knot in a way betrayal never had. She wasn't ignoring me because she was happy. She was hiding something. Something even worse. And it was about to crawl out of the shadows. The silence wasn't peace. It wasn't indifference. It was a storm winding itself up just beyond the horizon, and I could feel it, even before I saw it. It came 3 days after I sent that email. Middle of the night. I was up late, pretending to watch some mindless crime show, trying to convince myself I could sleep eventually. That's when I heard it, a slow, deliberate knock at the door. Not a neighbor. Not a delivery. The kind of knock that says, I know you're in there. I'm not leaving. I stood up slowly, my heart beating a little faster, but not from fear, from anger. From the bitter, smoldering rage that never really left once it settled into your bones. Through the peephole, I saw him. The man from the photos. Up close now, not just a blurry figure grinning in motel bed sheets. He was taller than me, maybe by an inch or two, lean, wiry. The kind of build you saw in men who spent more time getting tattoos than working a real job. His knuckles were raw, old scars crisscrossing them like a roadmap of bad decisions, and his smile, when it finally spread across his face, was pure poison. I didn't open the door. I didn't need to. He leaned in close to the wood, so close I could hear the scratch of his stubble against the surface. You think you can just walk away? He hissed. You think you can leave her like that, embarrass her like that, and there's no payback? I stayed perfectly still, breathing steady. You left her with nothing, he said, voice low and ugly. She's mine now. Everything that was yours, mine. There was a sound like a hard fist tapping twice against the door, not knocking, just reminding me he could. You got a daughter, right? He said, casual as you please. And just like that, every muscle in my body went rigid. Not from fear. From the cold, clean violence that flashed through me. But I didn't open the door. Not yet. Not on his terms. He laughed once, short and humorless. You think you won, he said. You're about to find out what losing really looks like. And then he was gone. His footsteps fading down the driveway, swallowed by the night. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table, lights off, Glock on the table in front of me, legally registered, and gathering dust for years until now. I didn't call the cops. Not yet. No, I needed to be smarter than that. I needed to think bigger. Because this wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. It was about outplaying them both. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Told him everything, not just about the business, the house, the money, but about the threat. He didn't even blink. We escalate, he said. We bury them. Within 24 hours. A restraining order was filed and approved, emergency status. A formal civil suit was drafted, suing both my wife and her new boyfriend for damages related to the business. The photos, the texts, the proof of infidelity, all compiled into a brutal, airtight divorce filing. And because the boyfriend had a criminal record, including domestic violence charges from a few years back, the judge didn't just sign off on the emergency order. He ordered immediate supervised visitation only for any contact involving my daughter. They wanted war? They just got war. And I wasn't going to lose. I told my daughter everything, well, the parts she needed to hear. Enough to keep her safe. Enough to make her feel strong, not scared. We made a plan. We moved out of the lake house that night. Gone before they even knew where we'd been. A safe place, friends of mine, people who understood how to circle the wagons when it mattered. And still, no word from my wife. No apology. No explanation. Nothing but that one texted photo, that smirking threat, and the monster she'd invited into all our lives. But that was fine, because I wasn't planning to wait around for them to attack again. No, I was already moving the pieces. And the next move? The one I was lining up? It was going to tear their whole shiny little fantasy apart, one brutal truth at a time. The beauty of betrayal is that it always leaves footprints. People like my wife, and whatever stray mutt she dragged into her bed, thought they were clever, invisible, untouchable. But they left trails. So many trails. And I was done playing defense. The first real crack came when my lawyer's private investigator found something buried in a county records office 2 towns over. An unpaid civil judgment against her boyfriend. Turns out, back in his glory days, he'd gotten sued by an ex-girlfriend for assault. Lost in court. Never paid the damages. The number wasn't huge, around 20 grand. But the principal? Oh, that was priceless. Because that meant we could legally garnish his wages. All I had to do was file a motion. Which we did. First thing Monday morning. And guess whose shiny new real job at a custom motorcycle shop would now be bleeding 25% of every paycheck directly into the court system? Yeah. Happy birthday, sunshine. The second crack? The boutique lease she was clinging to like a lifeline, the one we both signed? My lawyer sent a formal default notice to the landlord, citing breach of contract, failure to maintain insurance, and tax compliance. Normally, that would have led to a lengthy eviction process. Except, small detail, the landlord happened to be an old buddy of mine from way back. One phone call. One low, quiet favor. And she was served with an eviction notice the next morning, with a 5-day deadline to vacate. You should have seen the mess she made trying to scramble. Closing day sales. Pathetic Facebook posts about supporting small businesses in hard times. None of it worked. By Friday, the doors were locked. Her keycard deactivated. Her dreams bulldozed. And still, not a word from her. No apology. No attempt to make it right. Not even a half-hearted plea to spare her from the avalanche that was coming. It was almost like she thought she could just disappear into the mess. But I wasn't done. Because the third and biggest crack was something even she couldn't wiggle out of. Custody. That's right. While she was busy playing house with a two-bit thug, my lawyer had already filed an emergency custody petition. Full custody. Supervised visitation, maybe, if she could prove she wasn't cohabitating with a known felon. And given the photos, the texts, the restraining order, and the fact that her new man had a rap sheet longer than my daughter's Christmas list? Yeah, she was toast. The court date was set, and I could already picture it. Her standing there, all fake tears and trembling hands, trying to explain why she thought this was a safe environment for a teenage girl. I wasn't out for blood. I was out for justice. For my daughter. For the years I wasted. For the trust she shattered. And deep down, part of me hoped, prayed, that she would show up to that courtroom still smiling, still smug. Because I wanted to see the exact moment when she realized the safety net was gone. When she looked down and saw the ground rushing up to meet her. One night, sitting by the fire pit behind the safe house, my daughter asked, "Do you miss her?" It was such a simple question. One I'd been too angry, too busy to ask myself. I stared into the flames for a long time before I answered. "No," I said finally. "I miss who I thought she was." My daughter nodded, her face wise beyond her years. She understood. She understood better than most adults ever could. We weren't mourning a person. We were mourning a lie. And the thing about lies? Once you tear them down, there's no putting them back up. Only building something better in their place. The day of the custody hearing dawned cold and gray, the kind of sky that promises rain but holds it back, just to keep you uncomfortable. Fitting. I wore a plain black suit. Nothing flashy. Nothing that screamed for attention. Just clean lines, steady posture, and a steel-trap mind ready for war. My daughter came too, though she didn't have to. She insisted. Said she wanted to see it through. Braver than most adults I know. The courthouse was a small, nondescript building tucked between a post office and a shuttered diner. No grand marble pillars. No gleaming halls of justice. Just cheap carpet, flickering fluorescent lights, and a faint smell of burnt coffee. When she walked in, finally, she looked almost normal. No designer dresses. No carefully styled hair. Just jeans, a too-tight blouse, and a look that flickered between arrogance and barely concealed panic. And following 2 steps behind her, like a loyal, half-trained dog, was him. The boyfriend. Leather jacket. Dark glasses he didn't even bother to take off indoors. Like a bad extra from a C-grade gangster movie. They made quite the pair. Trash, dressed up for court. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, barely glanced at them before turning to my lawyer. Proceed. And my lawyer did. Laid it all out. Every last thing. The betrayal. The infidelity. The criminal record of her new partner. The restraining order. The eviction. The financial irresponsibility. Exhibit after exhibit. Evidence so clean and tight there wasn't even a crack for a sleazy lawyer to wiggle through. And my soon-to-be ex-wife? She sat there getting smaller and smaller with every word. Her cheeks burned crimson. Her hands twisted in her lap. At one point, she tried to whisper to her boyfriend, but the judge snapped, "Miss, if you cannot control yourself, I'll have you removed." The cherry on top? My daughter stood up, steady, clear, unwavering, and told the court about the night her mother didn't come home. About the strange men, the fights, the fear. There wasn't a dry eye in the gallery. Except mine. I didn't cry. I was done giving her the satisfaction of my pain. The judge didn't even take a recess. She ruled on the spot. Full custody to me. Supervised visitation only, pending full psychological evaluations. No overnight stays. And the kicker? If she wanted any form of visitation, she'd have to submit her living conditions for inspection, including the presence of any convicted criminals. Which meant her boyfriend would have to go. Or she'd never see her daughter again. Checkmate. As we left the courtroom, my daughter slipped her hand into mine. "Is it over?" she asked. I thought about it for a second. "No," I said. "But it's finished enough for today." Across the parking lot, I saw my wife crumple against the hood of her car, sobbing into her hands while the boyfriend lit a cigarette like he couldn't care less. Good. Let her break down in the same parking lot where she used to meet him for her little betrayals. It was only fitting.